Hi and welcome to May 2022 Patreon rewards video. So let's get started. I've been doing a lot of work on my own this month. So let's get started here with the comic strips. So I did finish the last comic strips. I was only going to do six in total. So these are the last three. I didn't do two. I haven't. The reason I did six is because I couldn't come up with any more. These are really tough. Like just doing two panel strips are really, really tough. So I just thought I'd just do my best here to just do that. And then that isn't to say that I'm not going to do any more. When a strip comes to me, I'll do it. But I'm not going to be forcing myself. I'm not going to be pushing myself to do it. This is a lot of fun, so I'm going to continue to do them. But I really, and I do have other ideas. The problem is that I don't want it to, I don't want to do any more, anything that's more than two panels. So this is the last of them. Um, I'm not going to read these to you. You can read them on my Instagram, or you can read them here on the screen. So here, let me do that. This one, by the way, just a slight commentary here. Everything that's written here is deliberately trying to make you uncomfortable, and the idea being that as long as I'm saying things in here that make you uncomfortable, hopefully, what it does is it builds the tension of the reader, so that when my lame joke comes into play, it releases that tension and it makes you smile or laugh. So the idea was to put something that was serious, and then release it with a gag, right? To enhance the joke. That was the intent of this very serious comic strip. It was meant to be uncomfortable. And then we have this one here. I actually reused the thorns from a previous comic strip in this one. That way I didn't have to draw the thorns because they were a pain in the neck. But that was the joke, and I actually really like this one. All right, so let's get okay. So this, so I did do a video on like the fractal method or the envelope method, about field sketching video. And this is the artwork for the field sketching video. So you're going to get the file for this, for that video, from that video, and what I talked about. This was an experiment gone wrong. I don't like it, but I was trying to see what would happen if I just drawn a black background, and then I would just put an image there and then try to make it glow, and it's terrible. I don't like the way it looked. But it's a failed experiment. But here it is. I'm sharing it with you. All right. So here's some images that I'm trying to do, some Jesus paintings. I'm trying to do some religious paintings, and I want to avoid the Renaissance representational Jesus problem. Which to me is that if Jesus looks like an actual dude, it may look like somebody you know, or it may look like a model, or you have to take a lady or a guy, and then you're trying to make that guy, and that's the guy that's going to be Jesus, and then it's really uncomfortable. Who is this person that modeled for Jesus? It takes you out of the image. The idea being that unless you're like Michelangelo and you're just drawing everybody that kind of looks sort of like all these people look a little bit like this, kind of the same, which then therefore makes it a little bit more iconic. You run the danger of making the image of Jesus look like an actual dude, and then it gets uncomfortable having to have that image in your house. Because it's supposed to be Jesus, who is supposed to be divine, and you have some dude that is not representing Jesus. It's like having an like thinking that the actor is it's weird. So I think I've come to the conclusion that the medieval people, the medieval artists, the ones that were making the icons in the East, had it right from the beginning. Make the images of the saints and make the images of Christ and his mother abstract, weird looking. Don't make them look like photos. Don't represent them in a realistic way. It's better to make them iconic and a little bit abstract and a little bit um, unnatural, in order to separate that that uncanny valley thing where who is this supposed to be kind of a thing. So taking that into consideration, I heavily inspired by not only the Eastern icons, but some of the modern iconographers who are um, changing just a little bit the style. Um, and then I'm looking at them, and then I'm kind of synthesizing the stuff that I like, and this was my attempt to design a Jesus face that was a happy medium between what I wanted to do and so that's the idea here. So and same with this is a baby Jesus face. I was trying to do the same thing with the baby Jesus face. The thing about the baby Jesus in those icons is that he doesn't look like a baby. He looks like a little man, a weird deformed little man. And that is on purpose. It's supposed to be a little deformed little man because the idea being that that even the point is that the baby Jesus isn't really a baby. It's just little Jesus, right? Like that's it's that's what it's supposed to be. It's not he's still symbolic of the grown-up Jesus. He just happens to be small. Um, and that's why he doesn't really look like a baby. He looks like a really ugly little man. So that's the point. The point was not to make him look like a baby. Well, I understand, but I kind of wanted him to at least look a little bit like a little kid, like a just a little bit, like so. That was just my sensibility. And I don't. There's a dilemma here. There's a dilemma here because um, in this art tradition, in the tradition of the iconographic medieval looking art, the artist is not supposed to be putting themselves or their input into the icon, into the image. The image is, you are in service of the image and the iconography and the symbolism. You are not the guy who is putting his soul and his expression into it. That's kind of not the tradition. That's not. There's a humility aspect where you as the artist diminish in service of the symbol that you are representing. The icon is above your feelings about it. You're in service to it. You don't sign the icon. You're supposed to disappear, and only the icon should remain. And only the symbols of the icon should be what is contemplated, and the artist is supposed to not exist, right? You're just in service of. So it's really, really tricky to do stuff like this while trying not to put too much of yourself into it. Like it's a tricky thing. Like I'm trying to not be so I'm trying to avoid the hubris of putting myself and being as if I'm special in some way. The humility thing is extremely important when it comes to these kinds of images. And again, and here's an image of Our Lady. And again, really tricky because on the one hand, I should just leave the tradition alone. I should just do the image of Our Lady the way that has been designed and represented. But I am also not an Eastern iconographer, and the tradition of the West, especially after the Renaissance, does have a little bit more of you're putting a mark on the art to a certain extent. So it's having your foot on both sides of the tradition. So I'm trying to preserve while also trying to find an I don't want to use the word aesthetic, but I want a look that also I'm trying to find the beauty that I'm trying to find a beauty there. Like it's a fine line between doing what you want to do and doing what the tradition and so I'm trying to make her look pretty is what I'm trying to say. To my eyes, I want her to be pretty. I want her to be beautiful. I would love to go into beauty, a conversation on beauty, the objectivity of beauty, what is meant by beauty being objective, and all this other stuff. But I will not. If you want to hear about beauty, how beauty is objective, please leave a comment, and then I will do a video about how, as an artist, you're supposed to capture beauty, what it means, how is beauty objective rather than subjective, and then I'll see if I can talk about that later. But that's kind of I'm seeking beauty here. It's really tricky. All right, so this is okay. So this is this month's postcard. If you notice at the bottom here of the postcard, it says 2019. I I did this in 2019. There is and even a sketch in one of my old sketchbooks where I was trying to let me see if I can get it. So I did do a thumbnail of this in 2019, and let me see. Here it is. There. So this was an experiment, and one of the things that I was trying to do was I wanted to do a really the contrast between absolute black, absolute white, but then I also wanted to do this really finessed mid-tone, like this light mid-tone. And I failed. I failed miserably. I think I've spoken about this before, but I have a really difficult time doing mid-tone, especially ambient light mid-tone. And in the last couple of months, I've been working on getting better at it and controlling it and understanding it so that I can pull it off. Well, I was rummaging through my desk, cleaning out my desk, just because it was a bit of a mess. So I just started to clean out. And then I found this postcard. And then I looked at it and I said, I remember not sending this out officially as a postcard because I couldn't execute. I didn't like it. It turned out the way I didn't like the way it turned out, because I wasn't able to execute on the mid-tone of the image. And because of what I've been going through and all that I've been studying on mid-tones and controlling it, I thought that I was going to be able to pull it off and finish this drawing. So I did. I took out some pencils and I added midtones to this. And so this is an ink drawing with some pen and ink, with a quill and some, I think it's ballpoint pen in here too, and pencil and Prismacolor. So it's super multimedia, and and I was able to pull off this drawing exactly the way I wanted to. It has become what I wanted from the start. So now I'm completely comfortable in sending it out after 3 years of having. It took 3 years to be able to finish this thing. So I'm really happy with the way that it turned out. I am proud to be able to send it off now. I almost want to do more of this type just because I like the way it turned out. So the person who won this, my patron, is Mega Gears X. Mega Gears. Thank you for your patronage. You're going to get this. And again, I'm really, really proud of this, even though it's old or older. It began. I was now able to, with my newfound knowledge of how to handle midtones, I was able to pull it off. Sadly, I'm going to be giving this away. It's really the scan doesn't actually. Now that I'm looking at the scan and I'm looking at the image on the, I like the original so much better. The scan just doesn't quite capture the subtlety of the midtone. There's pencil line throughout, like right here there's pencil line. You can see pencil, like the scan just doesn't have it. It's just, sadly, that's gonna be what I'm gonna have left, is just this scan, and it's not quite as beautiful as the final. All right, so this is a this is the board that this came from. This board is from a newsprint pad that I use for figure drawing. I had a huge stack of figure drawing boards, not boards, but pads, newsprint pads, and I just threw away just hundreds of figure drawing of my figure drawings, because they were just taking up space and they've done their job, and they were all kind of bad anyway. I did save the handful of drawings that I did like out of like 10 pads, but what I ended up doing was I kept the board. And the reason I kept the board was because I knew that I wanted to start painting in acrylic, because I wanted to do something a little bit more traditional, and because the goal again is to try to do these kind of the icon looking type paintings, and I wanted to do them in an opaque painting style rather than, say, watercolor, which is what I'm used to. So I decided that I was going to practice doing acrylic, because I didn't know how to work with acrylic and I wanted to get used to it. And so I took that board out and then I started practicing. So this is my practice. So here you can see that this is where I started. and this is where I ended. So I started here, and the idea here was that I was gonna just cover up all the board, and I was recreate all the paint and do everything in opaque, and it was a disaster. I didn't like the way it was. I didn't have any control. It didn't like the way it ended up looking. It was just a big mess. It was just not what I intended, nor was it what I wanted. So what I ended up doing was I took a nap after I finished doing this. And I thought about it, and I said, why don't I approach the painting the exact same way I do it in watercolor? Why am I doing something completely different? So that's what I did. I went back and I did this. And with this, what I ended up doing was I did exactly the same process as I do with watercolor. You've seen me do it in the postcards. I diluted the paint. I made a underlying wash. I did I broke down the lights and the darks in the exact same way that I always do all the paintings that you've seen me do. And then after I did all of that and I slowly built up, then I would add a little bit more opaque, a little bit more opaque, a little bit more opaque. So it was a slow build of the opaque paint rather than opaque right away. And it was thin paint to thick paint, which is kind of what you're supposed to do with oil anyway. Even though this isn't oil, this is acrylic. That's kind of what I ended up doing, and it worked out much better. The other thing that I did do was I didn't want to recreate the mid-tone from the mid-tone. I wanted to use the board color, the brown of the board as the mid-tone. So I didn't want to cover it up like I did here, where I wanted to recreate the color of the board or the value of the board. I decided instead here I would just leave the board as part of the value, and then that worked too. That was part of the thing that made it work. And so I finished this one. I thought, hey, this is kind of working. This is what I wanted. And so I did this one after that, and I did exactly the same process. And again, building up the opaque, and then it worked. Like this is exactly what I want to do. So having gone full circle, like I did these two practice ones, I redid this one again using this method rather than just going straight into really thick paint. So here is the redo using this kind of wash method that I've been using with watercolor all this time. And so this turned out much better. I'm like, okay, now I get it. So like I guess the next step would be doing it in color, like doing color now. Like this was just my black and white value kind of studies, trying to control the paint, trying to find an approach. So the next step is to do color. So that's what I'm going to be doing next. I don't know if I'll be doing it on the back of this board because I got other boards. So I may not do it in the back of I may do it in the back of the board, maybe. I don't know. I'll think about it. So, and this was a pain in the neck to scan. I had to scan it in pieces and then just kind of put it all together. So, because it didn't fit on my scanner. That board is huge. I went to the zoo earlier this month, so here are my zoo drawings in my sketchbook. Just hung around with the apes, and the zoo trip was with Simpsons colleagues. So we get together once a month now and go to the zoo and hang out, because we haven't seen each other in so long that we're desperate to hang out together now. So the Simpsons crew shows up, and even non-Simpsons crew people show up, like some ex-colleagues, ex-Simpsons artists. They tend to show up too, and then friends of Simpsons people show up too. So it's a little bit more of it's a nice band of a group of people. We kind of want to get together. The community thing about getting together and doing a thing as a community, so important, especially in this time of division among people. And I mean, you'd think that 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 what that at the show that everybody thinks the same, right? But they don't. We all have different beliefs. We have different political views. There's a lot of politics being talked about at the studio. There's Republicans. There's Democrats. There's independents, and atheists and religious and evangelicals and Catholics, and we're all in this studio. We're all working together, and we love each other, and we're all friends, and we can talk about this stuff and not hate each other, and we're so desperate for each other that we now get together to go to the zoo and hang out, because it just seems like this, our current culture is trying to divide everybody as if we're not human beings at the end of the day, right? That's what we have in common, is that we are human beings that want to be human with other humans. So we drew monkeys. We drew apes. We drew the chimps. And that's kind of what this is all about. I was using the technique from the video of this fractal method kind of thing, doing these apes, and you can kind of see it here. I did the envelope and I just never got to finish. But all of these apes were done using that kind of graphic shape first, and then you break up the shapes in between. So you can kind of see here that that's what I did. It's a graphic shape before I started breaking it all down. And you can see it here too. Like, I did a graphic shape and then I started breaking up the interiors, and this is as far as I got. So, but it's helpful. It's helpful. All right. Virgin Mary drawings, some sketches of some ideas for things like the harrowing of hell and crucifixion here. Trying to draw a cherubim head. So this drawing here is absolutely the product of this is the second drawing. I'll show you the first. It's coming up of my practicing doing mid-tone. So I took an image that I would never use as an image to draw something rendered from, which was a very lovely, beautiful black woman that was lit by sunshine. There's no dramatic light on her. The lighting on her is just ambient light. Ambient light. And that would be my challenge. How do I do this so that that I don't get to sit on my dramatic light. The dramatic light tends to do so much of the work for you sometimes. How do I do something that's just ambient light with no dramatic light and make it look okay? How do I control the values in a non-dramatically lit figure? That was the challenge. So part of the challenge was, of course, the value of the skin needed to be there because she's gorgeous skin. So you're trying to capture the value of the skin, capture the light, and also capture the form. So that was the challenge. That was what this was all about. Controlling the pencil, controlling the values, all of that. So that was the experiment. It took me about 4 or 5 hours to do this. It's extremely time consuming to do this thing. But what I discovered was that I found joy. I found that I enjoyed it. And that was the key. The key has always been to find that thing that makes you enjoy the process. Up until this point, I've never really enjoyed doing pencil rendering. I've always hated it. But I found a technique that helps me enjoy it. And the moment that you enjoy a thing, then you don't mind doing it. And then the moment you don't mind doing it, then you can do it for a long time and actually finish the thing and begin with, and it becomes something that you want to be doing. So that was what this is all about. So this was the second one. I will show you the first one, which is finishing up a drawing that I did last week. I'll show you how it ended up. But this was the second drawing that I did, using the techniques and the lessons that I learned about controlling values doing a pencil drawing. More St. Christopher. I think I've talked about St. Christopher before, so here's some more St. Christopher. I did a little bit more reading and discovered that St. Christopher though he is a Canaanite, he actually was a Roman soldier. So I needed to put him in Roman gear and Roman armor if I was going to do that. And then I decided, well, what if he's still kind of wearing kind of some Romanesque clothes or whatever, and he's still a barbarian, and let me take his clothes off. Basically, I didn't want to cover up his physique in armor. I just wanted to draw a buff dude. So I wanted to draw muscles. I just wanted to draw somebody who was just jacked, So that was why I just decided no armor, just like basically a towel around him. He's more of a Conan guy. And I was trying to put on hair, and it didn't look right. So I did eventually find a hair that looked right to me, and made him growl. Grrr. And then I started trying to come up with like images, like from part of the legend, where he's captured and he's in chains, and they send prostitutes into his prison to try to seduce him. So I wanted to do that image. Yeah, I don't know. I may or may not do it, but I kind of want to, because he's so Conan. But I'm debating whether or not what to do. And by which I mean, okay, so the idea here is that St. Christopher's got like a dog head, and the dog head represents that he's in the margins. He's out in the wild. He is a person who is on the edge of the world, and at the edge of the world is all the strange stuff, right? And the alien, the things that are alien. They might as well have dog heads, that sort of, because their culture is so strange. They might as well have dog heads. But it also kind of represents that he's a Canaanite, because it sounds like canine, right? But it also is that he's a beast. He's an untamed. He's not a Christian, right? Like he's not. So that's the part right there. That's kind of making me debate, because according to the story, like there are some versions of the story where after he converts, he loses his dog head. Okay, so that means that when he's captured here, he wouldn't have a dog head. So that's my debate. It's like, should I give him a dog head at that point, or should I make him look like a human being at that point? I don't know, but I do know that I want. And he's also portrayed often as a giant, because the Canaanites are giants because of the Nephilim, and this is a whole thing. It's a whole thing and that's a symbol of, again, the strangeness, the things that shouldn't be, the common. It's just, there's a lot of symbolism here that I just don't have the time to get into. But but he's also a giant. So maybe I could make him a giant with a dog head. And then so when he loses his dog head, he could still be a giant. So there's still something strange about him because I want him to be strange. And so I'm debating whether or not I should do that. And in which case I would have, if I want to draw Saint Christopher as Reprobus, which is the name that he had when he had a dog head, a Reprobus. If I want to draw Reprobus, it would have to be prior to his conversion. And maybe I could draw the conversion story instead, like when he meets the kid who he has to carry across the river and almost drowns because the kid turns out to be super heavy and almost kills him as he's trying to take this little boy across the river, and he doesn't know why, but the kid is getting heavier and heavier and heavier. Now Reprobus is about to drown and he can barely get out of the river. And then he finally gets out of the river and he puts the baby, the little boy, down. And he says, "Why are you so heavy, little boy? Like you almost killed me." And then the little boy says, "That's because I'm Jesus Christ and I carry the sins of the world." So and then there's like a little moment where it's like, if you don't know who I am or don't understand, put your staff on the ground and then the staff blooms, flowers, and then Reprobus converts. Like he realizes that he's among the thing that he's always been searching for, which is the greatest Lord of all, like that sort of thing. So I might do that story, that just like that little moment, because I want to draw Reprobus. I want to draw the dog head. But anyway. And finally, this is the last drawing. This is the first drawing that I did. So I showed you the last month. I showed you the rough drawing of this, the preliminary of this, where, and it's faceless. It doesn't have a face because I was trying to work out the face. And in a way that I wanted it to look, and so I worked on the face more and more and more and more, and you can sort of see that there's a little sketch over here in the corner where I kind of try to work out the face before I went and put it in here. So, and then once I finally was able to get a face that I wanted, that I thought it was fine and I can use, and I started doing the final rendering, and with the pencil, and just really being very meticulous with the rendering. And again, this drawing, probably the scan didn't pick up every single stroke here. There's a lot of subtlety in this drawing that I don't think ended up coming out clearly in the scan. But I don't know what this line is. I wonder if that line is actually in the drawing. But here it is, and then here's my little experiments with the pencils, and writing down my notes and how to control the pencil, and so this was the reason that I did this drawing was because this drawing did have a very clear black and white shadow pattern, and this one did not. So this was the mid halfway point where this shadow was very clear and crisp and clean and more traditional, more to what I was used to. But however, the rest of this, there's all this light and all the detail in this light. That was really where the real work for me started, so that I could control that a little bit more. Learning to control that was the learning. That was the learning curve for me, like learning to do this very subtle light, what's going on in here. So that's that. So that's this drawing. And those are all the drawings that I had for this month. I hope this has been interesting. I hope you understand some of where I'm coming from with all this stuff. And I'm just continuing to just experiment and learn, and it's a very exciting little time for me where I'm learning a lot of new things, and I'm trying out new things like acrylic paint, and trying to learn to do the icon stuff and learn to render more and pencil and doing comic strips. I mean, I'm having a blast just drawing in every single way that I know how to draw, challenging myself in all those things. And thank you so much for being my patron. I really appreciate it. I hope you enjoy and like the work that I'm sending out to you. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. And I will talk to you next time. All right. Bye.